Hello, welcome to Shareability Uganda. My name is Kaziwa Pius. Today we shall be looking at intestinal worms, or worms that affect the human intestines. We shall define what intestinal worms are, parasites, and how they affect our intestines. Intestinal worms are internal parasites. What are parasites? And what do they do? How do they affect us? Parasites are simply living organs that live and get food from other living organisms for survival. We have a term known as a host. A host is a living organism on which a parasite depends. Remember, we said a parasite is a living organism that live and get food from other living organisms. So that organism where the parasite gets food and where it lives is what we call the host. It hosts the parasite. Examples of intestinal worms include hookworms, flukeworms, threadworms, roundworms, tapeworms, pinworms, ginworms, and so on. Hookworms, we can look at hookworms. In physical appearance, hookworms are about 8 to 13 millimeters long. They live in small intestines where they hook themselves to the walls of the intestines with their hooked mouth and feed on blood. They feed on blood and live in small intestines. They use their heads to hook on the walls of the small intestines to feed on blood. The female lays eggs which pass out in stool or feces. They lay eggs that pass out in stool and feces. The eggs hatch out in water or damp soil and enter through bare feet, especially around the ankles. So improper disposal of feces gives a breeding area to these worms, to the hookworms. So after their eggs are passed out through our feces, when not properly disposed, they breed, they grow, and then we get them when we walk barefooted on the ground. They penetrate the skin and enter the blood streams where blood carries them to the lungs. From the lungs, they are off to the gullet and sold to the stomach and then to the small intestines where they stay. Hookworms are dangerous because they become many in number after they reproduce and suck blood and cause anemia, or what we know as hookworm anemia. This is the structure. This is how hookworms look like. Like we said, they fix their head onto the walls of the small intestines where they suck blood and live there. Signs and symptoms, how we can tell someone is having hookworms: abdominal discomfort, loss of weight, body becomes tired and weak, diarrhea, you diurete, the tongue, gums, eyelids, and fingernail become pale. Your tongue become pale, your gums become pale, your eyelids and fingernails become pale, as in they change color, they gain that yellowish color. How can we prevent hookworms? We need to wear shoes while walking on the ground, especially in wet places. Always use latrines, and afterwards wash your hands with water and soap. Using latrines help to dispose of our feces properly so that we do not give these hookworms their eggs. Remember, we said their eggs are passed out through our feces, and then after breeding, after growing, we attract those hookworms through our feet when we walk barefooted. So when we dispose of our feces properly in a latrine or a toilet, we keep it there so they cannot breed and then we cannot attract them to our bodies through our feet. Therefore, we need to always use latrines and toilets properly. Treatment: when having hookworms or when affected by hookworms, you need to be examined by the doctor in the hospital. You need to eat meat, fish, eggs, and dark green leafy vegetables, or food rich in proteins and vitamins. We have another type of worms called the ASCRIS worms. In physical appearance, they are about 15 to 35 centimeters long. They live in the small intestines also and feed on digested food. The difference from hookworms is that hookworms feed on blood in the small intestines, but for the ASCRIS worms, they feed on digested food. Children can get ASCRIS worms in contaminated food dirt around houses, in gardens, and roundworms eggs in the fingernails. So we need to always keep our fingernails short to avoid getting attacked by or infected by ASCRIS worms. ASCRIS worms enter our bodies through eating unwashed fruits and raw vegetables where the eggs may be attached. When one eats unwashed fruits and vegetables, the eggs get into our mouth, stomach, and then into the intestines and remain feeding on digested food in the stomach. When they are many in number, they block the intestines and cause constipation or diarrhea. They are caused by an infection called ascariasis. This is how the ASCRIS worms look like. This is a microscopic view because we cannot see it. We cannot see the ASCRIS worms with our naked eyes. So this is a microscopic view of how the ASCRIS worms look like. Signs and symptoms: just like the hookworms, ASCRIS worms also give abdominal pain, fever, diarrhea, and restlessness. Grinding of the teeth in children. See some young children, they biting their teeth. It might be a sign of a kid having ASCRIS worms. And then prevention: wash your hands before eating anything. You should not play in dirty places. Do not share plates because others may not have washed their hands while using your plate. Wash fruits and vegetables before eating them. Wash hands after visiting the latrine. Defecate in latrines only. Cut fingernails to avoid keeping roundworms eggs. In short, we need to have good personal hygiene, to keep good personal hygiene to avoid such diseases or being affected by such worms. Treatment: seek medical advice immediately you think you have roundworms. How do you think you may have roundworms? When you have the symptoms, the signs and symptoms we have discussed previously. Then we have another type we call the tapeworms. They grow more than 30 or 10 meters long. They are very long. They enter our bodies through eating half-cooked beef or pork and live in our small intestines. They hook themselves on the walls of the intestines and suck digested food. The difference between hookworms and the tapeworms: the similarity is that they all hook themselves on the walls of the intestines, but for the tapeworms, they suck or feed on digested food, whereas hookworms, like we said, feed on blood. When tapeworms are mature, they shed their segments containing thousands of mature eggs which are passed through feces or stool. Just like the hookworms, the mature eggs can stay up to 1 year on grass until either a cow or a pig eats the grass with the eggs. When the eggs are swallowed by either a pig or a cow, they enter their bodies into their blood system and go for another stage of development in the mucus. This is how the tapeworm looks like. That is its physical appearance. It can only be seen using a microscope. We can't see tapeworms using our naked eyes because they are very tiny. And then we have another type of worm which is called the scalex worm. No, sorry. The scalex is a part of the tapeworm. Functions of the parts of the tapeworm. The tapeworm has a hook, or it has hooks which help it to attack to the walls of the small intestines. It has suckers which suck digested food from the small intestines. These are some of the parts of the tapeworms. Like we said, the scalex has the sucker and then the hooks. The hooks help the tapeworm to hook itself on the walls of the small intestines, and then the suckers help it to suck digested food from the intestines. Signs and symptoms of tapeworms include: the person becomes very weak. A person passes out stool with tapeworm mature eggs or segments. The person passes out watery diarrhea and sometimes with blood. How do they spread? They spread through They spread through eating half-cooked or uncooked meat. Prevention and treatment of tapeworms: eating properly cooked meat, going for treatment, or seeking medical attention from a medical personnel. Let's look at another type of worms, which is the pinworm stroke threadworms. These live in the larva intestines. Sorry, it should have been in the large intestines. Sorry for that. They live in the large intestines, especially in the rectum. The female crawls out at night through the anus and lays its eggs around the skin, on the human skin. After it has crawled out of the human anus. The anus is the part where we pass our waste from, or our feces. So the female pinworm or threadworm passes out at night through the anus and lays its eggs on the skin. This causes itching around the anus, especially at night. It normally affects young children. So you see a child normally scratching their anus, just know they have been affected by the pinworms or threadworms. They are white in color and small in size, of about 8 to 13 millimeters in long. When the infected person scratches the itching part and later handles foodstuff or puts fingers in the mouth, the eggs become swallowed through reinfecting themselves. So this kid, after scratching the skin where this pinworm or threadworm has laid its eggs, they attract the eggs on their fingernails. And when, let's say in the morning, they wake up and eat something, they touch food with unwashed hands, they reinfect themselves by swallowing those eggs which have been contaminated onto the food. If the eggs hatch around the anus, the worms crawls back into the large intestines. However, if the person or the infected person shares edible or eats with someone without washing their hands, the eggs spread and the next person will also swallow the eggs and become infected. The eggs can be contaminated. The eggs can be in contaminated beddings, underwears, knickers, and they can be spread through this way, sharing beddings, clothing, and etc. This is how pinworms or threadworms look like a microscopic view. Signs and symptoms: abdominal discomfort, lack of sleep, restlessness. How can we prevent thin worms or pinworms or threadworms? Sorry for that. Seek treatment from a qualified health worker or medical doctor. Have an infected person wear tight-fitting shorts to prevent scratching of the anus, so that to prevent the transfer of the eggs from the anus to the food and then to be swallowed into the stomach. Change underwear, clothing and beddings daily. Scrub toilet seats with soap and water every day. Have family members treated. Wash hands with soap and clean water after visiting the toilet. You should cut your fingernails short and kept clear or clean. Another type of worms is whipworms. They are about 35 to 50 millimeters in length, with the head smaller than the tail. This is why they are called whipworms, because they look like whips. The other part is big and then the other part is small. They appear like whips. They live in large intestines without causing any symptoms. They are very dangerous because they normally don't cause any symptoms, so you not know whether you have them or you don't. They produce a large number of eggs. If in great number, they cause diarrhea and intestinal comfort. Only if in great number. The eggs pass out with stool and hatch out in the soil. They enter our bodies in the same way as the roundworms enter our bodies when we walk barefooted on the ground. You understand? So they enter through our skin, just like the roundworms. This is how the whipworms look like. This is the physical appearance of whipworms. So that has been that about intestinal worms or parasites. Thank you for watching. Thank you for supporting Shareability Uganda. And if you like the video, please give us a like to keep us moving, to keep us inspired. And if this is your first time on this channel, please consider subscribing so that you may be notified or updated when new content is uploaded. Thank you. May God bless you.